Inside a workshop, a worker reaches over a high-speed industrial lathe while it remains in operation. His loose sleeve comes very close to the rotating spindle. Never, ever wear loose clothing, gloves, or long sleeves near rotating machinery. You should also never reach over or across a moving chuck, spindle, or workpiece. Inside an automotive manufacturing plant, a worker enters the operating zone of an active welding robot without first locking out its energy sources. Never ever enter a robot's designated work envelope while the system is in auto mode. Industrial robots do not inherently detect human presence. They follow pre-programmed paths with operational force produced during normal cycles. To prevent this, lockout, tagout procedures must be followed without exception before entering any robotic cell. All energy sources must be physically isolated and locked out. Unless the energy source is fully locked out, the system must always be treated as active. On a busy harbor dock, a worker stands on top of a truck as a crane lowers a suspended load of blue sacks. The movement of the load creates a stability challenge for the worker. Never ever stand on a vehicle or remain within the travel path of a suspended load during crane operations. This situation is classified as a contact exposure hazard. Even slow-moving suspended loads carry significant momentum, and any unexpected shift can compromise nearby positioning. To reduce risk, a clearly defined drop zone must be established where no personnel are permitted during lifting operations. On a residential street, a crew attempts to slide a large fiberglass pool shell off a second-story roof using a makeshift wooden ramp. As the load begins to move, its speed becomes difficult to control. Never, ever attempt to manually maneuver a heavy, oversized load like a pool shell using makeshift equipment or gravity alone. Loads of this size require controlled lifting and lowering methods specifically designed for large structural components. Manual force is insufficient to manage a heavy load once it gains momentum on an inclined surface. A mobile crane or boom truck is the appropriate equipment for lifting or lowering large structural materials. Additionally, no one should ever position themselves within the projected movement zone of a load, regardless of how secure the setup may appear. In an industrial yard, a crane lifts bundled steel pipes over a flatbed truck while a worker stands on the trailer to guide the load. During the lift, the rigging moves unexpectedly. Never ever stand on the same surface as a suspended load during lifting operations. This is a restricted zone violation. When rigging components do not perform perfectly, loads may deviate from the intended lifting path and shift laterally without advance indication, and standing on the truck bed significantly reduces available exit options and increases exposure to unplanned load movement. Every lift must be planned with the assumption that rigging may not perform perfectly. A clearly defined drop zone must be enforced, with all personnel positioned on the ground and well outside the swing radius before lifting begins. On a residential porch, two delivery workers maneuver a large refrigerator using only shoulder straps. As they reposition it on an uneven surface, the load shifts unexpectedly. Never, ever attempt to move heavy appliances on stairs, slopes, or uneven surfaces without a proper appliance dolly. This is a manual handling failure. Tall, top-heavy objects can become unstable quickly once their center of gravity moves beyond the base of support. Human strength alone cannot reliably manage this type of load once balance has been compromised. Always use a heavy-duty hand truck with securing straps designed for appliances. If a heavy object begins to tip beyond safe recovery, workers should disengage and move clear immediately. Equipment damage can be repaired or replaced, but attempting to manually counteract a shifting load presents potential long-term physical strain risks. In an active construction zone, ground-level work continues when the unexpected happens. Never, ever work or stand directly beneath active lifting operations. This creates an overhead exclusion zone. Any unsecured material above ground level poses a serious hazard, as gravity can result in unintended vertical movement if stability is compromised. Strict exclusion zones must be established beneath all overhead work and clearly marked with barriers and signage. At this fuel depot, a tanker truck remains connected to underground storage tanks during fuel transfer. With no driver in the cab, the vehicle experiences unintended movement. Never, ever leave a heavy vehicle unattended without fully engaging the parking brake and securing the wheels with chocks. Relying solely on air brake systems is insufficient, as pressure loss or mechanical conditions can allow vehicle movement. The chock first rule must always be followed. Wheel chocks must be placed before any hoses are connected. Drivers should confirm the parking brake is fully engaged and position the wheels toward a curb or designated stop point when possible. If vehicle movement begins, workers should move to designated safe zones and follow established shutdown procedures rather than attempting a direct physical response. Inside a heavy manufacturing facility, a worker enters the operating zone of a hydraulic press to check a suspected misalignment, relying only on a temporary stop. Never, ever enter a machine's operating zone without isolating all energy sources. Temporary stops, sensors, or light curtains are not substitutes for complete shutdown procedures. Automated systems may re-energize without operator input if control logic resets or sensor conditions change. Proper lockout, tagout procedures must be followed. Power sources must be shut off, locked, and verified inactive before access. A test start should always be performed to confirm that the machine cannot cycle. Inside a busy truck repair shop, a freestanding high-pressure gas cylinder loses upright stability and tips over. When the valve is damaged, the sudden release of pressure causes it to move. Industrial gas cylinders contain extremely high internal pressure. If a valve assembly is damaged, escaping gas can generate enough force to cause highly variable movement across nearby spaces. Gas cylinders must always be transported and stored with protective valve caps installed. Proper cylinder carts with securing chains must be used during all handling and positioning tasks. If a cylinder begins to tip, workers should move away and allow it to settle rather than attempting to manually stabilize it. At a materials yard, two workers stand on a truck bed as a crane lifts a smooth, heavy panel using friction slings. The load begins to lose stability. Never, ever lift a smooth surface load using an improper friction hitch. Slings wrapped around a flat, unsecured panel cannot provide a reliable grip. If the load's center of gravity shifts, it may move unexpectedly. A lift is only as safe as its rigging. A load must be guided with tag lines from a safe distance, never by hand from within the drop zone. The bed of a truck is the center of that zone. Always match the rigging to the load. A smooth surface demands proper lift points or a secure basket hitch rather than an improvised wrap. To keep learning from these important workplace safety lessons, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Stay aware, stay safe.